Hello, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Sharon Rogers of Mrs. Rogers Stamperhood, and every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, I come to you with an online class. Now, it's going to be a little bit different this week because this week is the first in a three-part series featuring the Zoo Crew Suite. I'm going to be coming to you the fourth Tuesday tonight in June, and then the first two Tuesdays in July. So you're getting a bonus class this month, well, into next month. So I hope you will tune in for all three parts. This Zoo Crew Suite is so much fun. Fun for kids, fun for adults, fun for everybody. Let's see what we have. Now, if you have not yet seen the Zoo Crew Designer Series paper, there are 6 different sheets in here, 2 of each sheet, and so 12 sheets total. One of them features animals doing a variety of outdoor activities. One features animals dancing. This is great if you have little ballerinas or ballet dancers in your family. One for the musically inclined. So cute. Look at this little beaver. He's so happy to be playing those bongos. And then there's some pastimes and hobbies. We've got the sloth doing some yoga and a llama knitting. We've got a bear reading, so lots of fun things. And then we've got some travel-oriented ones. So these guys are going places. And then we have a party one. That's great for just celebrating birthdays, of course. Now, if you look at the back sides of these, they are all black and white and different designs. So let me flip these over so you can see the different designs here. And you can keep these black and white, or you could color on them with either markers or blends, or a sponge dauber with from your ink pad. You could do all sorts of things here to make them so that they're not black and white, and so they coordinate. But that is the Zoo Crew Designer Series paper. Remember, 2 of each of these sheets. So for this first card that we're going to create, we're going to be taking the animals from the outdoor page. And here you can see I've got a little skunk with a birdie on his head. We've die cut some trees because there are trees in the die set. So here is our Zany Zoo stamp set. And you can see this guy does come in here. And this one, though, was not colored by me. This one, he came colored that way. He's part of the Designer Series paper. But you can also just stamp him and color him and die cut him out as well. So all of these animals are featured in the paper somewhere and have a die to match them. And then you can see there's some great words. But the dies are not just those animals. You've got some other parts and pieces as well. We're going to be using this one a little bit later on, and so the curtain as well. But here you can see these are the trees that were used on this particular card. And we also need the little skunk with the birdie on his head. We need that die as well. And the rest is just some simple paper techniques. We're going to begin with a piece of basic white, thick basic white. Whenever I use white as a card base, I like it to be the thick because it's not so flimsy on the back. It holds up and it'll stand up better for the recipient to display. And then we're going to bring in a piece of Pool Party and some garden green. My Pool Party piece measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I'm going to stamp that first, but I need to add a few more layers first, I think, or at least position them on the page where they need to go. I've also got a piece of garden green that measures 5 1/4 inches in width. The width or the length. The width does not quite matter at this point. And we're going to tear. So tear toward you, and the piece that you tear toward you is not the piece that we're looking for. We're looking for this piece right here, and that's going to give us this slope. Now I think I want it to come down a little bit lower, so I can cut off the bottom, or I can just trim this. And I think I am going to just trim off the bottom. I want this to be a little bit shorter. I'll put the flat edge against here, and let's just cut off a bit. I don't even know what I'm cutting off. I just know I want my hill a little bit lower. So there we go, like there's that. Now this other part, you don't have to throw away. You can just adjust it a little bit, and look at what you have. You can have it going up like this. Now I think I do want to change it slightly. So again, where I want the slope to be, what I want seen, I'm tearing away the other part so that I have this rough edge. Gives a little bit more of a grassy look, I think. And so there we go. That's what we have. Now my two pieces right here, they're not big enough to cut out my trees, but I'm going to cut out a couple of these trees, and I'll cut one pair in the garden green, and then I'm going to cut another pair for contrast in the shaded spruce. Let's bring in my die cutting machine. This is a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. It is well worth the investment if you love to stamp. And I will need plate number 1 and 2. And I will need a number 3 plate. Here's a number 3 plate. You can see it here, up here. Number 3. This is where you want to place your cardstock on, and this is a great time to use up some scraps. I can't do them both at the same time. I can do the large tree and the small tree at the same time, but I can't use both colors at the same time because I only have 2 dies. We'll just put another number 3 plate, number 3 plate over the top here and run that through. Now, if you want to keep your plates in as best shape as possible, what you should do is get in the habit of rotating them and flipping them. You don't have to do it every single time, but you want to do it at least some of the times. And so I'm going to try now the other color. And not only that, but try not to die cut always in the center. Move your dies around. And just kind of, the most pressure will occur where your dies are. So if you're moving them around, it's less apt to bow in the middle. So let's bring in our piece of paper here, and I want to just trim around a little bit, because who knows, I may need those little mountains or those trees. So I'm just going to trim fairly tightly into this guy, and then I'm going to die cut him. Now, because I don't want that to shift at all, I'm going to go ahead and use some a little Post-it note here. I have a little Post-it note. Stampin' Up one. Let's use a Stampin' Up one. Okay, and I like to detack it a little bit. I'm just going to line that up exactly where I want it and stick that right over the top. And you'll be able to reuse that as many times as you'd like. Bring this back in. And remember what I said, we want to kind of stay out of the middle as much as possible and just sort of moving all the dies around. Oop, I'm missing something here. I'm missing maybe not. Oh, here we go. I thought it was going through very easily, and it did, but not so easily that it didn't die cut. And so then I just carefully remove my Post-it note, and I've got my little skunk. right, so if we assemble all the pieces, or we start to anyway, we can see we're going to have something like this going on. And we can put my little skunk here wherever he goes. And we can put in some trees. And let's see, we got another one over here. Put him right on the edge there. And maybe another one up here or down here. You can put them wherever you want to. So I do like one down here. Let's make it a baby tree down here. And put that one there. And maybe we'll stick this one beyond the hill. And then this one up here. Something that looks like that. Put it right there. Okay, so then this gives you an idea of where you're going to stamp your greeting. So I'm going to bring in the set, and let's see, we've got "You're too wonderful," "Happy birthday to you," "Something great to celebrate you." I'm going to go with a "Happy birthday to you" this time. It's not what was on my original sample. All right. And you know what else is in these dies? There's a cloud. So we could stamp a couple of clouds, or not stamp, we could die cut a couple of clouds to put up here. I think I'm going to do that. But let's go ahead, and we'll go ahead and stamp the greeting anyway. Happy birthday to you. And we can put the clouds around that. Let's layer on what I have here. I'm going to go ahead and put my garden green layers on just with glue. So some items are going to get popped up and some are not. This is a not popped up item. I want to make sure it's over there, right? Make sure all my edges are where they're supposed to be. And then I'm going to put this one down as well. Come on, there we go. And line all those edges up. Okay. There we go. I think I'm going to pop this guy up on dimensionals. Make him more fun. Didn't mean to throw him at you. I'm going to put another one up on his tail. So let's go ahead, we'll just put him right here, sort of near the ground. There we go. And now we need to arrange our trees, and so maybe we'll put our tree right here. And I don't think I'm going to put this guy up on dimensional. I'm just going to glue the bottom of him down. I can leave the top sort of free, and that glue will dry clearly in there that it shows through. And let's go ahead and put this guy, maybe I'll put this guy up on a dimensional. And for that, we need just an edge piece. He's pretty thin, so we'll just cut a piece of an edge off. Fits on there. Whoops, I got him a little too low. Cut a little bit off. Okay. Let's see, I should put him up there. He's in the distance. He's a little bit smaller. All right. I lost one of my trees. Where'd he go? There he is. All right, let's go ahead and put this one down again with just some glue. These trees would be great accents on Christmas cards as well, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and use another little skinny piece of the edge. See if I can get that on there. This edge peeks out a little bit. There we go. All right, we got some trees in there. Let's go ahead and put a, let's see how the clouds would look. Back to the die cutting. All right, we've got 3 clouds now. That should be good. Now, when you see clouds, they're not usually stark white. So if I were to bring in this layer here, I mean, I could put my my clouds right up there, just the way they are. Maybe I put one down here, and I have these 2 that go like this. Yeah, that looks great. But since I don't usually see them in this way, I'm going to take my smoky slate blend. You can take some ink and a blender pen, whatever you want. I'm gonna add a little bit of gray here. Now, if you get too much gray, you don't like it, maybe I put a little bit in there too. Okay, that's a lot of gray in there. So I'm gonna take my color lifter, which is like magic, and I'm gonna scribble over it, and that's gonna soften it. And in many cases, it really even picks it up. But let me go ahead and, because I really do want it pretty light, you can see how I'm almost blending that away, blending the gray away. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Just put some around some of the edges. And on this one. Try not to do it in the same spots every time. Again, I'm just going to lighten that a little bit. And as the ink dries, as this color lifter dries, you can see that it gets very, very light. All right. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to just use some glue dots for ease of getting those on there, because this is pretty small, and so I'm afraid that I'd just get a big old blob of glue. So let's go ahead and just put some of these on with glue dots. Ooh, this guy almost fell down in between my hills. All right. Let's see, something that looks like that. There we go. Now all we have to do is adhere this to the basic white card. And I want to put it on the front, don't I? I'm thinking one step ahead. What am I going to do on the inside? So there we go. He's so cute. He's so cute. He's having an adventure. Now on the inside, I think all I'm going to do on the inside is I'm going to take the stamp, the coordinating stamp, and I'm just going to stamp him on the inside. There we go. He doesn't have to be colored in. He's colored in on the outside. So we can just put him in here, and then you can, happy birthday to you, something great to celebrate you. Let's do that on the inside as well. Something great to celebrate. And maybe we put this one in a color. There we go, something great to celebrate. I think I got that crooked, but I didn't take the time dealing with the camera, so it's gonna have to be good enough for the video. But what happens if, what do you do if that happens to you and you really, really do want it to be straight? How about bringing in a scrap piece of paper? Let's go ahead and let's bring in a scrap piece of paper here and go ahead and stamp something great right in there. All right, and now we can just trim that with our trimmer. So there's no such thing really as mistakes. There's just creative opportunities. So I've taken a creative opportunity and we're just going to put that right in there, and it looks good. Looks better than if we hadn't made the mistake, I think. And so there we go. And then there's plenty of room to still write a greeting. Cute and simple. We're going to begin with a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, and it is 5.5 by 8.5, and it has been scored at 4 1/4 and folded in half. We're going to have a piece of lemon lime twist that measures 3.5 by 4 1/4. I've got a piece of basic white that is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And this is what we're going to be working off of. I'm going to start using a piece of crumb cake that measures 5/8 of an inch wide by 4 1/2 inches long. And I'm going to adhere that. This is the stage for our little ballerina. I'll just adhere that right to my basic white. There we go. All right. We do need our ballerina now, so we're going to bring in a piece of the Designer Series paper. And as we did with the last card, we're going to just, I mean, I don't even have to cut it out at this point, simply because I could run it through the die machine because I have a narrow piece there. But I did it. So we'll just go with it. We're going to bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and our plate number 1 and 2, one number 3 plate. Then we want our paper. And then we need to bring in our Zany Zoo dies. And the dies do cut out the ballerina. Here she is. I have a hard time sometimes guessing what the shapes are. Just by looking at them and the dies. So we're going to just take our time to line everything up the way we think it should fit. See most things. There we go. And we need to bring in our Post-it again. Where'd my Post-it go? Oh, it's stuck to something. Here's our Post-it. That looks pretty good, I think. And then we're going to put on another number 3 plate. Let me go ahead and, reminder, put it off to a side. And I do want to do both sides, so make sure you're alternating sides too. Carefully remove our Post-it. And here we have our little ballerina. Now while I've got my die cutting machine out, I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of basic black scrap, and in my dies I have a curtain, what I'm calling the drape, and then I've got this piece right here, which is the top of the curtain. I need 2 of these, one for the left and one for the right. So let me go ahead and put that on here. Now that's got a very straight edge, so I'm going to angle it a little bit, make it easier to go through my machine. And I didn't mention it before, but all these dies will fit through the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Ooh, almost ran out of room there. Here we go. So if you only have the mini, these dies will work with the mini. But if you don't have either machine and you want a machine, my suggestion is always go for the bigger one, because not all dies work with the mini machine. And most of our folders do not work with the mini machine either. Oh, I got rid of my machine, but I do want to do the top. All right, I've got these 2 pieces. I'm going to set those aside. And let's go ahead and do the top now. Bring my machine back in. That's what happens when I talk. I get distracted. All right. Now, this piece of basic black that I have here is 1 inch. And I'm going to take about 1/8 of an inch off it. And I've got it cut to the right length, so I'm going to try to make it so that my dies are pretty well centered there, and they are. So I want to make sure that the bottom is pretty much the same over here everywhere. Oh, let's see, I think that's pretty good. So I want to make sure that the gap here at this end is not like way bigger than the gap at the other end. I want to try to get them about the same. All right. And those are the pieces that I need here. All right, there we go. So let's bring in our elements. Okay, I need to interrupt the current video because I'm about to make a mistake. I'm about to forget to put the ties on the curtains. So let me show you how to do it. It's pretty simple. You're going to either use some sticky strip or some mini glue dots. Both are pretty strong, so either one will work. Let me go ahead and take a glue dot off of here, and I'm going to put it on the back side, and I want to put a couple on. You'll see why in just a moment. All right, this is much easier when you do it before you assemble the card. I can't get that off. There you go. All right, so now we're going to wrap this little piece around. Now this is more than long enough for the whole card, but I'm going to just wrap it around here. So we've got it going in 2 different directions. And you just snip off the excess, and there we go. See, here's the card without it. And this is what it looks like with it. It definitely adds some flair, which I like. All right, so now what I'm going to do, these drapes, one goes on each side. And I want the drapes to pop off a bit, but not the top, because the top is going to go under the valance portion. So I'm going to go ahead and put a black Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm using black because my curtains are black, and they have these little slits. So black is preferable because the black will show through as black. All right, so if I am just doing it on this edge here. All right, so I have that. And then I want to make sure I've got my orientation right here. I'm going to put this one on this edge. Lining it right up with the edge. Okay, now the tops are free floating. This is going to go right over the top, just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dimensional. I'm going to put 3 dimensionals on here. And let's see, which is the front. Okay. I'll put these near the top, right here. Take off the backing. Now my directions will call for the black mini dimension on my black dimensionals, but you can use, of course, white if that's all you've got. And this one is not over quite as far as I want it to be, so I want to squeeze that over there so I don't have any white edge showing. All right, so there I have my stage. Let's bring in my little ballerina, and I'm going to put her right there. I'm not going to pop her up because I want my curtains to be out front, which is how they would be in a normal recital. The dancers dance behind the curtain even when it's open. All right, so there we go. We need to bring in a sentiment. So I think I'm going to go, "You're too wonderful." So this ballerina is finishing up her recital, and you're going to be giving her a sweet little card and maybe some flowers, just to tell her how great she did. You're too wonderful. This obviously could be for a birthday card as well. Anybody that likes dance would appreciate getting this. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my lemon lime twist layer with a little bit of glue. Center that. There we go. And then we're going to put this on our card front. So all in all, this is a pretty easy card to create. Now, if you forget to put it on here, what you need to do is do the same thing, but it is decidedly harder. Ask me how I know. I'm about to show you. You're going to have to sneak this in here and put it down and hope it doesn't stick to the white while you're getting the other one. Which one did I do? Yeah, see, I'm already lost. There we go. I'll put that one back there. I'm going to take my little piece and attach one end in there. Wrap the other around, which in and of itself is not all that easy. I would cut a bigger piece if you make a mistake. All right, we've got that in there. We can feed that in now. I'll bring this over. I'm going to go ahead and just try to grab it with my scissors. All right. And then you have to trim that excess. So see, it's not quite as easy when it's already on there, but it is doable in case you forget. All right, now, one of the things that you can do to, just spruce this up just a little bit is take, excuse me, some Wink of Stella and just paint her little tutu. That's going to give it a little bit of shimmer and shine, which I bet her tutu would have. All right, just adds a little bit of sparkle. Now for the inside of the card, I'm going to take a quarter sheet of, well, it's slightly less than a quarter sheet. It's 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to go back to my designer series paper. Now, not all of the characters have dies that coordinate. So you could punch this out with a circle if you wanted to, or an oval if you had a die cut, or an oval punch. But it really doesn't take a lot to fussy cut this out. And besides, you're going to be putting it on white. So the white edge is not going to be very noticeable on the white cardstock. So you don't have to be as precise as if, say, you were putting this on, a piece of black cardstock or something else. But the fussy cutting really is not bad. You could keep the lines here too if you wanted. I can't now. Well, I guess I can, because what I can do is I'll glue it down and nobody's going to know anyway that it's white on white. So if you see what I'm talking about, you've got white on white. It blends right in. I mean, you can see it if you look hard, but nobody really looks that. And they're not looking for those hard edges. Mine aren't bad anyway, but you just put her right there. And what a cute little accent piece for the inside of your card. You could do the same thing for the outside of the card if you wanted to. There's another critter in there. There's a hippo that's dancing. Here we go. And a pretty quick and simple card. So we've been using the designer series paper for our characters, and I could do that for this card as well. I'm featuring the raccoon here. However, I want my raccoon colored. Now I could color him, but the other thing I want to change about this is I don't want pastel colored balloons. I want something a little bit brighter. So the Zany Zoo stamp set has that particular raccoon in it, and it has the coordinating dies. I'm going to bring in a piece of basic white. Now this is just a scrap piece of basic white. I'm going to be using my deckled rectangle dies. So this is how they come. There are 8 dies, I think. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 dies, and they nest together perfectly. So I'm going to use the 3rd largest and the one that's kind of in the middle, the 5th largest, I think. Something that looks like that. So the 4th and the must be 6th. All right, so I got a nice little border there. Just adds a little bit of interest to the sides. I'm gonna come in here and get my stamp. Here's my raccoon. And let's get out a block. All right, I have this block here. I'm gonna get out my Memento Tuxedo Black again. All right, and we'll just stamp him sort of in the middle. All right. I'm going to bring in a couple colors of my blends. I'm going to bring in my Smoky Slate ones. And this is the Pebbled Path. Because raccoons have a little bit of a brownish tint to them. It depends where you live. Some are darker than others. But I'm going to color his mask in the Pebbled Path. All right. I'm just going to add a little bit of dark to his chest too, I think. And I'm not really going to worry about shading too much on this guy. Maybe a little bit. Let's see. And this is going to be Smoky Slate. Now this is the dark Smoky Slate. I'm going to bring in the light Smoky Slate. And give him a wash all over. Remember, when you're coloring with your blends, you want to be very gentle with this brush tip. It is a brush tip. It is not a marker that you used in 2nd grade where you could color as hard as you want. Light touch, light touch. That's what you want. And we'll color his tail. And I want to put in a couple of the brown undertones in his tail. I've also used crumb cake with this sometimes, but I'm just using the Pebbled Path here. And we'll just put that in there. And now maybe I'll come in with the dark Smoky Slate. And just around his body, gives it a little bit of roundedness to his body. Gives that illusion anyways. All right. And you can go back and blend it a little bit more with the white. So with blends, I mean, not white, light. So with blends, the key is really adding more color, not necessarily less. Because the more saturated the paper, the more the blending will happen on its own. Right? And the more it will peek through in the back too. And that's okay, but you just have to know that this can't be a card front in and of itself. You have to layer it on something because this side sees through. Now, I'm going to bring in some other colors that I have. And you can use Stampin' Up markers too. I like the blends. I prefer the blends because I can blend with them. It gives me a little bit more of a professional look, I think. But I wanted brighter colors. So I'm using Tahitian Tide and Berry Burst and Lemon Lime Twist. And I'm going to start with the light color. And this is my favorite, I think, of all the colors. So I'm going to do 2 of these balloons. And because I'm going to be shading, I want to go right to the shading color here. All right, that just puts a little bit of different shade in there. Now I'm going to use Berry Burst on one. I love this Berry Burst color too. I have a jacket this color. I get compliments on it all the time. And we'll put the dark shading in a little bit more here. Right around the edge a little bit. There we go. And then the last color is going to be the Lemon Lime Twist. So lots of bright colors. So this is the dark. I don't want the dark yet. So I just wanted something a little bit more vibrant. And the paper and the DSP, those colors aren't necessarily really vibrant, at least on my little guy here. All right, there we go. So my coloring is all done. Let me move this out of the way. And And we're gonna go ahead and bring in my dies. And I'm gonna use my Post-it note again that I've been using, because I do want him positioned pretty much center in this. Okay. Here we have our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine again. Plates 1, 2, and 3. And remember this, oh, I just moved him. So this has got a pretty straight edge. So I want to send it through on an angle, remember. So I'll make sure I've got him set first before I send him through. Okay. Now I put him on an angle so a point goes through instead of a hard edge. While I've got my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here. See how this gives just a nice little deckled edge, just something that's not quite so hard. You can also make nice frames out of this as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my plates again. I'll bring in the black piece of scrap that I have here. Oh, and I need the larger of the two dies. So here's the larger one. And again, I want to make it go through so a point is going through. All right, and we are done with our die cutting machine. Now with your $35 or more order between now, Tuesday, June 27th, and Sunday, which I think is July 2nd, with your $35 or more order before shipping and handling and tax, I will send you a class kit that will contain all the supplies you need to make 2 of each of these cards and 1 of the 3D project that I'll be doing. And if your order is $50 or more, I'll include some embellishments as well. Okay, so I have some other pieces here that I want. I can put this on here. Let's go ahead and adhere that so we can keep those pieces together. Now I'm going to be having a July, it's not really a special. I'm doing a fundraiser in July for a place called A House for Me. And every kit that I sell from the kits collection, I'm going to donate my 25% commission to A House for Me. A House for Me is a home for individuals with special needs. They have either intellectual disabilities or autism. And there are 2 women living in the house right now, and it's basically a private house. Parents had adult children, and they wanted to find a way to secure as independent a life for them as possible. They wanted to live on their own. The women did, and so with the community's help, they can. When the parents had looked into a group home or some other sort of independent living situation, or at least supported situation, they found that there was an enormous wait. I think the list they said at the time was 800, and now it's almost 2,000 people deep, with only about 10 people coming off a year. So they knew that to find a place for their daughter and someone else, they would need to do something else. So they created a nonprofit, and they've got community support, and they have nobody that is paid to work and be in the house. There is someone who gets to live there free as a caregiver, and so in exchange for caring for the women, they get free room and board. But all the other people that come and help support are donating their time. These women have jobs and they are thriving members of their local community. Okay, so this is 3 1/4 by 3 7/8, and this is 1 1/2 by 3 7/8, and it just leaves that gap in the middle there that we're going to resolve in just a moment. But let's go ahead and hear that down. So anyway, as I was saying, my husband and I have a special needs son who will most likely live with us for, until we're not here. But what happens when we're not here? Now, we do have an older son, and I'd like to think that, he would look out for his brother. However, it's also not fair for us to expect that his brother necessarily have to manage all that on his own, especially if he's got a family to raise, which he doesn't currently, but there's the future. So this is just such an important thing for me that, we'll have to look at this somewhere down the line, I think. But even if my son Aaron did want to care for his brother in his own home, that doesn't mean that there aren't other people who need some different kind of support, because not everybody can live with their family. So now this is some of the Baker's Twine Essentials pack, and this is the gray that's in there. I'm just going to wrap this around a couple times. We're going to tie a bow on one side. I probably need a little bit more. There we go. I should probably measure this because you're going to ask me what the measurement is, or I'm going to need to put it on the instructions. So it looks like it's about 29, 30 inches. So if you just do 30 inches, that'll work. And of course, you can use less. I may include less. You don't have to wrap it around quite so many times. Just tie it in a bow on the side there. All right, we're going to put this little guy right over the top here. And so what you can see is we have a mostly monochromatic card with a pop of color. I'm going to go ahead and pop the pop of color up using dimensionals. I'm about out of dimensionals here, so I'm going to just use up my sides. So anyway, going back to my fundraiser, anybody that purchases a kit will be supporting a house for me. And my goal is to sell 100 kits during July, which is probably going to amount to about $500 going to a house for me. And my family is going to match it. So whatever comes in from the kits, we will match. So my goal is basically $1,000 for a home for me. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a home for me, it's a house for me. But it really is a home for them. And the me does speak to the individuals, but this is in Maine, so the abbreviation for Maine is ME, me. So it kind of works a couple different ways. So, although that is my fundraiser, because I am donating my full commission on each kit, you can't just buy kits for your $35 and get this class kit for free. The kit costs in July. Any kits that get purchased will not be able to count toward this. Now, if you purchase $35 worth of product plus a kit, that $35 gets you the class kit. So Isn't this cute? He's so adorable. And so we can just put in a happy birthday saying in the center. Let's go ahead. Something great to celebrate you. And I think we need a nice pop of color inside, don't you? So I don't usually talk this much off topic, but I wanted to definitely give you a heads up on what's coming a little bit later this week. Plus, I wanted to make sure that you knew about the purchasing requirements. It gets a little dicey with that, but I simply can't provide all these materials, which cost me, and ship, which costs me. Shipping's not cheap. So that's all I have to, that's why I had to just make that disclaimer here. Let's go ahead and we'll just stamp this guy in Memento Black on the inside too. I'm gonna put him right over here. There we go. And we don't have to color him. Isn't that cute? Now I know some of you don't like to fussy cut. And so if you have a circle punch, or perhaps you have a circle die, or an oval die, or just somewhat whatever shape that fits around this, you can punch out an image. Many of these images come out nicely with a circle. Certainly several of them will come out with rectangles and ovals as well. But I've used just this circle. And now let's see what we're going to do with him. I'm going to bring in my Simply Scored tool. Now you can certainly use the scoring blade on your trimmer, but when I'm making boxes, I really do prefer to use my Simply Scored tool. I'm beginning with a piece of basic gray cardstock that measures 8.5 inches by 4 3/4. I am going to score at 1 inch on all 4 sides. This is going to give me a box that is 1 inch in depth. And then I'm going to turn it back on the long side, and I'm going to score. I've scored at the 1 mark, but then I want to go 2 3/4 inches more. So that puts me at the 3 3/4 inch mark. I'm going to score at 3 3/4, and I'm going to score at 4 3/4. So if you want to do all these scores at the same time, you're going to be scoring at 1 inch, 3 3/4, 4 3/4, and 7.5. And on the other side, you'll be scoring at 1 and at 3 and 4/4, 3/4, 3 and 4/4, 3 3/4. We're making what's called a clamshell box. It will, it doesn't have a separate lid. The lid is built in. We're going to cut on these score lines right here. And for the box, we're also going to cut on these ones just up to that first score line. So all 4 of these. And I like to miter mine a little bit, which just means you just notch it. And obviously you could just take that first notch out instead of cutting straight down the line. Some people like to cut off the score line. And what I mean by that is you can see that the score line has a bit of a thickness. So they just cut to the left of it and cut to the right of it and kind of cut where it joins. I like mitering, just notching my edges a little bit. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. So this is what I don't have to cut on this line because I'm just going to cut it off anyways. So I'm just mitering right here, taking that little notch out. And you don't want to take much off. Just want to take a little bit off, just so it goes together a little bit easier. You don't have any ends protruding out where you don't want them once you've got the box all folded. Good thing this is my last project because my voice is not holding out. Excuse me. I'm going to bring in my bone folder. Now, some people always ask me, or some people ask me a lot, which way you fold. So it's counterintuitive. So if there's the dent here, you're folding away. And if there's a mountain, you're going to fold towards you. So in this case, the box has all the same directional folds. So just use your bone folder to make nice, crisp lines. That'll help your box to stay square, and it'll just give it a nicer finished look if your edges are nice and crisp. And to adhere this, you can use sticky strip, or you can use just your basic liquid glue, which is what I'm going to use. Don't go overboard on your glue. You don't want it to eke out the sides at all. And you just want to make sure that it's nice and straight here. Same thing on the other side. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I needed to put it on the inside. Well, let's see. We're going to wipe this off. We're going to put it on the other side. And we're going to do this. All right, now this is going to be sticky over here. But once that dries, I'm going to just use my little eraser and get that off of there. Oopsie. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going to take, well, except for I'm going to do it right. There we go. I usually shoot video and then edit in a different day and then write my tutorials in a different day from that. However, I'm doing it all at once right now because I'm going camping, so kind of have to get it done. So the only last thing that we want to do is we want to adhere these flaps as well. So you just pick whichever's the bottom. It doesn't really matter because they're all the same. And you fold this up here. Make it nice and square. Same thing here. There we go. And then you can see you have this little box folds just like that. Now, if you want, you can take a little a circle punch here. I don't really, let's see, do I have a small one? I have my one that I used to punch out, but I can't get that in there. So let me grab one of my smaller ones. But you could also just cut a V. You could just make a little V for a finger hold. I've been doing this for a long time, so I do happen to have a little circle. I can just punch out a little bit there, and that's a little thumb hold, how somebody can open it. Come on, get in there. It really does close nicely. Oh, I see what I've done. I was getting it in between the tab. All right, so there we go. So now let's just decorate this. Now, my little circle's going to go on here, but I want to put a little bit of color behind him. Now, I can do that with ribbon. And let's go ahead and... So there are a couple different colors in here. There is the lemon lime twist, but there is also the petal pink color that's in here as well in this duo pack. So we could tie this around. Let's see. We're going to want to tie it in a bow. I'm just trying to figure out how much length of ribbon I probably want. I don't want to cut until I have an idea. I don't want to be too wasteful. So let's see if I wrap that around. That's going to be good. So this is, if I measure it, about 20 inches. And go ahead and bring this around and tie it on the side. This is really pretty ribbon. It's striped. It's got these little vertical stripes in it. So one stripe is white and the other stripe is this petal pink. It's just a really pretty color. Like if you look at it on the spool, it just all looks petal pink. Looks ribbed petal pink, but it is white and petal pink. Where's my... All right, I'm gonna have to focus on tying my bow right now. Much better when I stop talking. All right, so there we have a little bow. Let me put this guy right on top. The other alternative that you could do is, I mean, you could have him on top like this as well. So you could have the bow on top of him like that. So that's one option. Here's another option to decorate this. So perhaps it's not for a girl, or it's for somebody that's not a girly girl. Maybe you just want it to be fun and different. You can take some cardstock, and I'm going to take some of the colors that are in this particular project. So there's, in here we see some orange. So I'm going to take a little strip of orange, and I'm not even really measuring it other than it's just skinny. And I'm going to take a piece of lemon lime twist. And I think I'll do, there's Daffodil Delight and Pool Party. So I know my box is 2 3/4 inches wide, so I could just cut these all 2 3/4 inches wide. And I think it was last week that we did something like this. We did, actually it was not last week, it was a couple weeks ago when we did the floating strips. And we used the window sheet. Well, we don't really need to use the window sheet. That is how that technique goes. But you can make this float without that. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to cut a couple of these. I probably should have a couple of all of them. Let me get my orange back out here. Just a thin strip. The orange is pretty overpowering. It's pretty bright. Pumpkin pie. All right, let's set my cutter aside here. And what I could do is I could just, I'm gonna put these on like this right here. Let's try some different widths. So we're just making a little striped box here. And you can see that all my stripes are different widths. Yeah. And maybe we have one like this. And so we can just work with the placement on it. So something that looks like that. I wish my orange here, my pumpkin, was a little bit thinner, I think. So I'm gonna cut it down. So there we go, something that looks just like that. And we can adhere this to the box just the way it is, or we can pop them up on dimensionals. So it would appear that they're floating. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to bring in my black. You could use any colored dimensionals. You could use the white or the black, doesn't matter. And I'm going to use the mini. So in the black dimensionals, you get 2 sheets of the regular size and you get 2 sheets of the little guys. And let's see. That's 640 dimensionals all in all. Let's go ahead and put a couple of these on here. Now, if you didn't want to take the time to do this or use the dimensionals to do this, you certainly could just glue it to the box. That would be a lot faster. But you know, sometimes fast is not the name of the game, right? So see how that appears to be floating? And let's see, this is just the right width right here for my dimensionals. All right. Oh, I'm gonna have to plug in pretty soon. Good thing I'm almost done. And now before I get too far, I'm going to come from the bottom and work up. Just so I can keep it somewhat evenly spaced. This take your pick tool works great for getting the backs off these little guys. These little guys are so much harder to work with. I mean, they're not hard to work with. They're just, you know, they're harder to pick up because they're teeny tiny. There we go. And let's do this one now. Okay, I'm trying to get that about the same spacing as the one on the top. And then our last one is our pool party piece. Oops. There we go. It goes right in the center there. So we have just this little cool stripe action going on here, and we can put our little guy right up on there, and I'm going to put him up with the big dimensionals. And then you can fill this with some candy, some treats, some birthday supplies, money, all sorts of things. But there we have a cute little box. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed these projects. Don't forget, we are in the final days of the Designer Series paper sale at Stampin' Up. So go ahead and check out the link in the description of this video to my online store, Remember, if your order is $35 or more and placed by Sunday, July 2nd, then you will qualify to receive this class card kit. So you can create 2 of each of the cards and 1 of the boxes that I made tonight. And don't forget to check back on July 1st, because all July long we'll be having a kit party to benefit A House for Me.